and they're like, what is
Never heard of
this?
sugar in your soil.
Okay, so most of the time, the people
Control
that
your
they're
emotions,
that
not
they've
break
been
under pressure.
painted
All this
is
stuff is
We are one of the very few
meditating with
businesses, organizations
you know.
where you
So
can shop
really
great
online.
tips already off the bat, and we're just starting.
Go to Top Box.
Hello and welcome to Healthier Habits, a podcast that discusses challenges and solutions when it comes to health and wellness, as well as connecting you to some local resources in Chicago. My name is Cassandra Zumba.
And I am Yakwache and will be your host. We are the Policy, System, and Environmental Coordinators here at the Chicago Partnership for Health Promotion, a program from the Office of Community Engagement and Neighborhood Health Partnerships at UIC.
Today with us, we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Eduardo Bustamante. Expertise lies in exercise psychology with an emphasis in ADHD and community engagement intervention research. His research focuses on generating evidence-based lifestyle interventions that promote physical and mental health among Chicago families. Dr. Bustamante is an assistant professor of kinesiology and nutrition at UIC, where he is a director of the UIC Healthy Kids Lab. Welcome, Dr. Bustamante.
Thank you so much for having me. I think it's so amazing that you all are doing this podcast, and I'm honored to be on.
Thank you so much for being here. I think we were on a little roll earlier with the conversation we're having off camera, and I can't keep going on that because I think it's a really interesting topic to hit, especially for the community out there who's also in studying and trying to figure out what to do. So let's start off with how did you get to where you are as in your educational path? We're talking about how it was never linear.
Yeah.
So wherever you would like to start, what made you decide on either the major or the career?
Yeah. So I'll say that when I was younger, probably undergrad age, so like my early 20s, I could get pretty stressed about what career I would end up picking. And now as a professor here at UIC, I'm working with a ton of students who are kind of facing the same things. And some of the advice I got that was really, really helpful for me, that kind of de-stressed me and let me move forward. One was my job is just to be responsible and then pick the best option in front of me. So I have to get A's, I have to volunteer in labs, I have to do my work, I have to make connections, and then I have to apply for a bunch of different programs, and one should make itself clear to me. And the other one that really helped was somebody told me, don't worry about where you end up, because wherever you go, you bring yourself with you. Okay. So I have an interest in physical activity, in sports, in youth and mental health. If I had become a school teacher, I would have had a bunch of physically active lessons, right? If I had been in public health, I would have done physical activity related work. I would have found a way to bring that in. If I taught Sunday school, I would have a physical activity piece to it. And it turns out that I ended up finding a career in kinesiology, which is kind of the study of physical activity. But kind of being like, just being confident that I'm going to bring myself and my skills, my interests wherever I go, and that's going to be okay. And kind of, for me, having a faith that there's a place for me and that God will put me where he wants me to be. And so I changed my major in undergrad like 3 or 4 times. I was all over the place.
What did you start with?
Pre-journalism.
Oh.
Then I took a journalism class and I did not like it. I think that I just wanted to write my opinions. And once they were like, no, you have to follow all these rules and do all this research. I was like, no, not for me. So I ended up in kines and really liking it. I had played sports all my life. And I had ADHD all my life. And so I kind of had this experience of, as I got more serious about sports, I became a much better student. So I went from probably having, I know for a fact, I had a 2.01 in high school GPA, because 2.0 was the GPA to play basketball. And so I was very proud that I had done it to just skirt that.
Right.
But as I got older, I was really fortunate. My parents were able to send me to a boarding school for a year. And it was to play basketball, but I really, as I slept really strictly, ate really strictly, trained a lot, it was all A's. It was all A's.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, my ability to focus was just way better. So part of it was becoming 18, and part of it is getting my health together.
Okay.
But I was really fascinated by kind of what's going on there. So I took that in, it led to a career in kinesiology. At that point, I had really figured school out, was able to do the honors college and Latin honors and get good grades. And then I applied for 3 things. I applied coming out of undergrad. I applied to be a teacher through Teach for America, for a master's in public health at University of Michigan, and for a PhD in kinesiology. So Teach for America, I didn't get it. Master's of Public Health was like $50,000 a year. That's I'm not. And then I got offered the National Science Foundation fellowship to do kinesiology. And so that meant that I would have my tuition waived. I'd get a paycheck. And I was like, okay, that's an easy decision, right? So just being able to fall back on having faith that any of those paths would have been fine for me, but this is just the one that worked out, and it was the best option for me. So then got to come to Chicago and really haven't left unless I had to.
I'm glad you're mentioning some of the obstacles or the hurdles and even like your GPA in high school, because some of the people who are struggling in school and stuff like that just think the most smartest people are in school right now or are successful or in college or doctoral degree, but it doesn't start off like that. It's a lot about persistence. It's a lot about dedication.
Totally.
And believing in yourself. Even if you do or don't have that support system, you can find a support system.
Yeah.
There can be people who can help you out. But I think that's very important, because I know when I was younger, for sure, struggling with dyslexia and also being in the 2.0s too during high school, it was like, am I going to be able to keep up in college? And then I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. And I was like, it was something, but hey, we made it through it, right? So it's important to show kids out there, even parents out there, that it may be a little bit of a struggle, but you can make it through. And you can still be successful.
And I think sports and education going hand in hand for you is really great, because sometimes when people mention sports, they say sports would take you away from education, but you mentioned that sports was also what got you very concentrated and very interested in your education as well.
Yeah. So, I have 2 thoughts. So one is, one of my favorite authors is Malcolm Gladwell. He has a bunch of books that are really interesting, but he has a chapter about like intelligence and performance. And what he basically just says is you have to be smart enough to do the task. Like any smarter is just gravy. And that if you're smart enough to handle some role, you can either do the job or you can't. And it's really mostly work ethic, persistence, determination, applying yourself. Like that is a skill and an intelligence in and of itself. Be able to apply yourself day in, day out, have a long-term goal, stick to it, be disciplined. With regard to sport and education, it's on the one hand, sport is this invaluable tool to learn to like work with a team. Develop communication skills, develop problem-solving skills, strategize, train every day, keep going even when you're, hurt or fatigued. Control your emotions, not break under pressure. All this stuff that's really going to transfer really, really well. But there is a point where you have to, I suppose, convert. The ideal is you develop this set of skills around how to be successful in sport, and then you transfer it over to life. To whatever you want to do. Podcasting, health promotion, research, teaching, whatever it is. For me, I have some friends who were really amazing at basketball, and they were so good that they never played anybody who could beat them. But they weren't actually like one of the best, like 300 or 400 players in the world. And so I think it can kind of delay how long until you pursue some other kind of career if you're too good. I was not.
You were that good.
Yeah, I wasn't like, oh, I'm 30 and I'm retired now and I played in 5 countries. So no, by the time I was in high school, I was just getting beat every single day. But then I could help people with their homework. So I was like, oh, I guess this will just keep
balance. It built up your morale.
Or humbled me to realize where I'm going to have a better chance at success.
Yeah, because the world of sports itself is so hard to get into those big leagues that you have to also kind of see if you're going to do that long term, or you're going to have to start switching the path after high school.
And if I could say one more thing, I had the good fortune of coming through during a time when there was a big push to diversify science and medicine. And this is still ongoing.
Yeah.
So there is still really vast underrepresentation of African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, people with disabilities, people from low-income communities in science and in medicine and technology and engineering. And so there are a lot of programs to diversify. So like that National Science Foundation Fellowship that I got was because I'm Latino, because my parents are from Cuba. I got a dissertation award from National Institute of Mental Health that really launched my career. That was for underrepresented students. I got like my comp. So one of my big, in my field, in kinesiology and exercise science, American College of Sports Medicine is the biggest field. And so they have a program that I've been involved with for a long time and that I came up through, I'm an alumni of, where they will pay for students from underrepresented backgrounds to come to conferences, present their research. They'll pay for the hotel, the flight, the travel, et cetera. So American College of Sports Medicine Leadership and Diversity Training Program. If any aspiring scientists are listening out there, there's a lot of funding to diversify science, just because you all know, like the health challenges that we're trying to solve are just driven disproportionately by groups that are underserved broadly, and then those same groups are underrepresented. And the idea that we're gonna be able to address health in these communities without having any representation of those communities just doesn't add up. And so that's clear enough to the federal government that that's policy with a lot of money and resources behind it.
And this resource would be for more up-and-coming high schoolers or college?
This would be for, I think that there are programs at every level. So anyone who's interested in kinesiology, please reach out to me, Eduardo Bustamante, UIC. If you just Google, you'll find all my info. If you're like undergrad, there starts to be travel awards to regional meetings. Once you're a grad student, master's or PhD, you'll then have, it's not even a travel award. It's not, once you reach that level, it's an investment by the organization in developing you as a leader. So they want you to be a fellow of their college. They're going to pair you with a mentor. I got mentored for, I participated for 5 years, which is the full amount you can. And it really just, I'm a trustee of American College of Sports Medicine now. It was definitely a pathway for me into my fields.
Awesome. So please use this resource as well, because definitely underrepresented groups are needed in these places that we're trying to solve. And then you keep throwing up kinesiology. And give us a little bit more what kinesiology means.
Like
what it entails.
as if we didn't know exactly what that.
Because I'm still a little confused with kinesiology.
So it's an academic discipline. So like all the sciences, like biology, physics, chemistry, it's an area of academic study where people are trying to push forward new knowledge. And kinesiology is study of human movement. So we have 4 main like branches. So biomechanics, which is like all the forces. Like if you want to jump to dunk a ball, like how hard does your foot have to hit the ground? Right? That's biomechanics. Physiology is, how does your heart work? How does your vasculature work? How do your muscles work? All of like the exercise training, strength training, knowledge is going to be coming mostly from physiology. Motor control is like how your nervous system works, how you control movement, how you learn new movements, how all these have like associated disabilities. And then my subfield is psychology. So that's the 4th one. There are a bunch of sister fields, like physical therapy, strength and conditioning, health psychology, behavioral medicine, like rehabilitation science. All that stuff is like really proximal. But people who study kinesiology might go on to careers as like personal training, strength conditioning coach, physiologist, scientist, physical therapy, med school, nursing, a host of health career, health professional related jobs. So it's been a really fascinating ride, actually. So because of my focus on exercise psychology, I've gotten to collaborate with psychologists and mental health services researchers here and study the effect of physical activity on kids' mental health and family mental health, with a special focus on kids with ADHD, which is like me search. So it's, part of like learning more about my experience and kind of watching the field learn about it and how much physical activity is integrated into ADHD treatment now.
How can someone use kinesiology to better their physical activity, or how does it relate, or what are the differences?
Yeah, so something like the physical activity guidelines for Americans, which is 150 minutes a week of moderate to vigorous physical activity and twice a week strength and conditioning for adults. It's different for kids and for preschool and for older adults. All of that is coming from kinesiologists. So there's a federal physical activity guidelines committee composed of probably 10 to 20 of the most prominent physiologists, and they run a bunch of meta-analyses. So I think what kinesiology is providing is the science to back what decisions you're going to make. So when they say, exercise at this intensity for this many minutes, there's a host of like 20 amazing health benefits, like don't die, that kind of thing. Don't have a heart attack.
Right.
Don't get diabetes. Don't get cancer. Yeah. Lowered anxiety, lower stress, keep weight off after you lose it. Like a whole bunch of stuff that's scientifically backed by thousands of studies. And so we have a really good understanding that's growing every day on, how much physical activity do you have to do if you're sitting all day versus how much physical activity you have to do if you kind of have a job where you're up and on your feet. Based upon like where are you in your lifespan? Are you an older adult? Are you a kid? What are your goals? And so there's just a lot of knowledge there that you can look at. So if you go on like Google Scholar and you ask almost any question related to physical activity, you're going to see kinesiology researchers there to inform the decisions that you make. It's just amazing for you. Like there's nothing else really like it. It stresses your whole body and your whole body adapts. And so the literature is really, really profound. And basically any of it is great.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of us or people in general find it difficult to find time. I think time is usually the biggest factor.
Yeah.
But if you just try to do your best to set aside that time, there's so many benefits that go along with it.
Yeah.
And here's CPHP, we talk about like the general, how much you should be physically active, just the general things. But if you really want to get into it, there's so much studies, there's so much information out there that can really get to like more specific on what can work for you. Not saying that you need to be physical fitness, bodybuilder, any of that, but just having enough activity where you feel healthy and comfortable, and just keeping your body still active.
Yeah.
Is important.
I think I was reading somewhere that like your health determinant starts from when you were a child, how physically active you are as a child and how well you eat, your nutrition all tracks through your adulthood, and may affect how healthy you are in the future. If you could explain that a little bit more.
So this is a really interesting area and where we're still learning a lot. So actually there's studies now looking at what are the health behaviors like sleep, nutrition, physical activity, smoking, alcohol of a mother while she's pregnant, and the effect of the baby when the baby's 1 or 2 in terms of like cognition, et cetera. So it's like even before you're born, the game has already started. We've published data off of a birth to 26 cohort study. So it's called the Study of Early Child Care and Youth Development. It was led by one of my former PhD students, Dr. Jared Raymer at Springfield College now. But they started with kids at birth, and then they followed them to age 26. And they have a host of physical activity, nutrition, out-of-school program participation, and then like health outcomes all the way to age 26. And so he's found some fascinating stuff tying like your early health behaviors, your early experiences with your parents in physical activity, your enjoyment, your actual physical activity participation in high school, and then your physical and mental health in early adulthood. And so, yeah, definitely you kind of wear the marks of your past.
And not when you were born, but when you're in the womb.
See your brother before that.
Right.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you brought up time as the primary barrier, in your work, eat, move, save. So everybody's busy. Nobody has time. What do you all tell them?
See, I wish I could say that I always practice what we preach here. But I mean, the reality of life is that life gets in the way, And that's something that when I used to do more of a directive, that I would emphasize with the participants, right? Like, yes, we're giving you all this information, but yes, we know there's other challenges that I don't even know what's going on in your life,
Yes.
right? So take all the advice that we're giving you that is very evidence-based, that is
Yeah.
very trustworthy, but also adjust it to your own life.
Yeah.
So for me, I've been struggling a little bit with the fact that we are working from home. So the way that I separate my personal time and my work time is different than before when I was like in an office where I would have more structure. Like I'm going to be from the office here to here, then from here I'm going to the gym, from this and then that. And now I don't have that set schedule. I can change it around. And because I change it around so freely, sometimes those time things.
Hey, man, you're not having the same experience.
So it's been a work in progress.
Yeah. I mean, there's this interesting thing about you develop associations, right? So in psychology, like back to like the 50s, there's something called operant conditioning, which is just you pair two things. Like in my mom's house, there's a room with a blue carpet that we call the blue room. And I would go in there, I'd play video games with my best friend, and we would eat vanilla ice cream and peanut butter. We would mix it up and eat it. And then I went back there in like my 30s, and I walked in that room, and I had a craving for ice cream and peanut butter, you know? And it, so just to say, like, if a certain space is associated with a certain behavior, then like it's almost like you have to start the habit fresh. Like when you were coming in, you had a habit, you had the urge, like you would go to work, you would see the gym, you would have an urge, you would go. But now you're home, and your habit is like eat ice cream, you know? And now that's the urge that you have. So you have to be deliberate about like making your habits. And yeah, anytime you change routines, you really have to rebuild your whole life. Cassandra, how about you? Or how about you?
So just like Cassandra, I do have a little difficulty in just keeping my discipline when it comes to physical activity. But one thing I do make up for is like, if I see an elevator versus the stairs, maybe I'll take the stair. Maybe not today, but afterwards I'll take a stair.
Yes.
I think we even had another topic about physical activity where Tracy came here and said that sometimes sitting in your chair and being able to do some exercises, whether at work or whether at home, it doesn't have to look like, oh, maybe I'm going to the gym today for my physical activity, but maybe doing some range of motion swimming. That's the physical activity. Or maybe you were talking about yoga at the park. You see people doing yoga at the park, just going there and spending 30 minutes. You know, it doesn't always have to look the same. So that's kind of a little bit what I've been trying to pick up, taking the stairs or, you know, joining a dance class or doing yoga at the park or something like that.
And all right, so a couple of things. First, I just want to give you all some grace. I think that we don't, it's like in my field, we don't give people, you know, like, there's phases to life. You know, like, the past few years, I've been going for tenure. So we're looking good on tenure. I should be tenured in August. Board of Trustees meet in July.
Congratulations.
But, and then I've like slowly accumulated kids over the years. So I now have 4 kids. So like, it becomes a time in life when it's hard to fit anything in, you know? I have my own priorities. And my priority was to get tenure. And to, I guess, make sure I have money to feed these kids. And so like, physical activity was taking a back seat for me. And nutrition was taking a back seat for me. So now having gotten like letters confirming tenure, I've gone to the gym like every day, and I'm feeling, you know, like eating so healthy and like I'm less stressed. But there's something about that burden of that big stress being lifted that's freed me up now to really get back into it. I think what we kind of generally do, which is to argue with people that they should value physical activity more highly, it's just not a winning approach. So it's like, you know, Eddie, you're going for tenure, but like if you have tenure, but then you are sick, like you can't enjoy your tenure if you die, or, you know, like if, well, your focus is going to be better if you're active, right? I do a bunch of research on that. Like, I know that, but I have to get this thing done, you know, I have coffee. So, the thing about it's like people have their own priorities, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to have your own priorities and things that are important to you in your life. And we don't need to be arguing with people about whether they should be valuing health more highly. Like obviously if they had the bandwidth and they could, they would. I think of it kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever done like a bench press, like with weights.
I've done it not well, but yeah.
So like, so you put the weights on the bar and you're lifting it and you're like, all right, cool. But then if somebody puts on like a little bit more weight, it can start to feel really heavy.
Yeah.
So if somebody's already bench pressing like 200 pounds and you're like, hey, I just want to put 2 more pounds on here. Like, hey, I just want you to eat vegetables. And I'm looking at if I'm the one asking you to eat the vegetables, to put on the 2 pounds, I'm like, bro, it's 2 pounds.
Right.
Like you can put on 2 pounds. You have time. You have money.
Yeah.
But they're like, it's heavy. I'm lifting 200 pounds right now. I cannot take another pound.
Yeah.
And so I do think we have to give people grace that like, if you can get into a situation where things are more manageable, then that becomes easier. Like the famous case would be like any mom at home who's running the whole household. And, everybody's like, oh, you got to be active.
Right.
It's like, this mom needs a nanny. Like this mom needs
around for kids. That is correct.
somebody to do the laundry and some help. And then so she'll gladly be active.
Right.
So my work now, some of which we're really thankful for, CPHP and OCEAN-HP for funding, built as a SNAP-Ed program, which would be Unstoppable in Life Together, which is a family lifestyle program. So working with families to take on healthy sleep, food, and exercise routines.
Yeah.
It's saying, how can we use health behaviors to get you what you want?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're trying to be tenured, when can we add in that? So the way that I use physical activity when I was going for tenure would be during that lull in the afternoon when I just at some point your eyes like get blurry when you're in front of a computer. Just taking a walk, getting a coffee, like moving around, I guess like stretching my back out so nothing hurts, and then keep going. Making sure that I took care of like my sleep. So I have sleep apnea. So getting like a little machine made an amazing difference. Like my ability to just wake up and feel awake with that taken care of so much better. And so it was more like trying to be creative about using health behaviors to help me get my goal versus just being like, I got to be about health all the time. And with the families we work with, it's kind of the same thing. So if it's like a family where siblings aren't getting along and you want them to get along better, all right, cool. Well, let's do some cooperative. We'll play some physically active games, but it's going to be cooperative. So it's maybe the 2 of them versus you. So they're kind of getting on the same team, or you're kind of working with them on communication within the games. If what you want is your child to be like more focused at school or in a classroom, then getting some exercise and breakfast in the morning is a big deal, right? And so, it's just kind of like tailoring. I think that this is my last point, then I'll shut up.
This is what we're here for.
When we think of health interventions, we think that some feature of health interventions is going to make them successful. Oh, I have AI health intervention. My health intervention is based on social cognitive theory or self-determination theory, or, it's multi-level, or it's like community engaged, or like some feature of it is going to make it work. And I think probably all that really matters is the fit between what you're trying to do and the person's life or the organization that you're working with. And so I think natural selection kind of provides a good analogy. So you might say like a polar bear is a really successful hunter, so therefore white fur is really good for hunting, right? But not really. White fur is good for hunting in the snow, right? If you're I don't know, if you're in a forest and you're bright white, you're gonna be too conspicuous. You're not gonna sneak up on anything, right? So you'd rather be a brown bear in the forest. So it's like, what's gonna fit the person's life that we're working with? What's gonna fit the company that we're talking to? What's gonna fit the community organization? And what's gonna fit ourselves? And that's really what matters in terms of survival, more than some cool feature, some cool app or technology.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a theme that have come across often, that participants want to know, just tell me what to do, or give me just this list of what I have to do. I'm like, it's not a one answer stop shop here. Like there's a combination of things and then adjusting it to you. I'm like, I don't know what your physical ailments are. I don't know where you are medically. Like, I don't know what your family situation is. So you have to find the right fit.
Yeah.
And that's between you your doctor, and then also, whatever's around you, your community as well can help. And we were talking about community, and you mentioned like the different organizations you're around. Employers can be a big influence as well as providing either resources or just like different policies that direct people in a way that can be a little healthier without being too overbearing.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So also, we want to make sure that our community as a whole is all participating in a way that can just create a healthier environment for everyone too.
Yeah. I want to say just something that strikes me as really interesting. So Eat, Move, Save, I think is really brilliant. And for me, because everybody is like worried about money and trying to save money. And so right there, you're kind of aligning with people's goals. Like you're not fighting with them on their priorities. They're like, no, you should, go to Whole Foods and value health over money. Like, no, let's get your health routines down so that you're going to save money. And I haven't seen anyone else do that. And I think it's so clever. With regard to organizations, so, all right, we know that there's this like endless debate in my field, exercise psychology, and not just I guess in the country, but it's personal responsibility versus environment and what drives health behavior. So on the personal responsibility side, people will be like, nobody made you eat that French fry. Like you chose to eat that French fry.
Yeah.
But then on the environment side, it's like when you put McDonald's in a neighborhood, more people are going to eat French fries. And if they don't, it'll go out of business and it won't be there. So it's like, it's real predictable that adding that to the environment changes things. And so it's a little bit more nuanced than people realize, I think, because a personal responsibility lens on your health behavior is totally empowering for you as an individual. So if I view health behavior as in my control, I'm confident about it. I'm driven to do it because I enjoy it. I enjoy healthy food. I enjoy exercise. I enjoy sleep.
Yeah.
I've developed habits and routines that are going to be specific to that, and I can own all that. That's really empowering to me. I can really take control of my life as an individual, and reshape my health. As I talk to other people, I want you to have that same skill set, right? I want you to have this individual psychology, personal responsibility skill set and view.
Right.
That is super limiting if you're running groups or organizations or a city or a town or a business, because once you reach that level where you're in charge of a bunch of people, you now can shape the environment in a way that influences everybody. There's something called Rose's theorem or Rose's paradox, and it's that so it's from public health, and it's the idea that really big gains in a small group of people really draw our attention. So if you ever watch like the show The Biggest Loser, people lose like half their body weight, and we all watch it, we're like, wow. Okay, but there's like, I don't know, let's say there's been 50 Biggest Loser participants and they all lost 200 pounds. We're at like 10,000 pounds lost. So if everybody in the country lost 1 pound, nobody would notice, but we'd have lost like 250 million pounds, right? So it's like the overall effect of anything at scale is so much bigger than anything individual. And if you are a person who can have some influence on what activity opportunities people have, what food opportunities people have, what norms are like around sleeping and taking care of your health, then you have this ability to have an amazing impact on health because like on the science side, we know environment shapes behavior so profoundly. My favorite example, there was a researcher at Michigan State who I heard gave a talk at National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities. And they were looking at like alcoholism rates between neighborhoods. And I think normally, like personal responsibility standpoint, you'd say, well, look, people in this neighborhood just have like a culture where alcohol is more permissible or whatever. They're just not as driven, and people here don't. But what you found was that the alcoholism rates were following zoning policy. So that in like some neighborhoods, you could have a liquor store in your building. Like you could live in the same building as liquor store, or a liquor store would be on the same block. In other neighborhoods, there's no liquor store at all, right? So my kids are being raised in a neighborhood where there are no businesses at all, period, right? So like clearly, if you put a liquor store on a block, it's not like people are always rational. One day, you've had a really rough day, you broke up with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or somebody died, or you failed a class, and you go to that liquor store and you start a habit, right? And so if the liquor store wasn't going to sell liquor, it wouldn't be there. So we know it will. And so it's like sort of the presence of the store is going to change some behaviors. That's going to change culture. So that changes what's permissible. So it's not always that we think something is right or wrong, and then we do it or don't do it. Oftentimes is that we do the thing and then we rationalize it after. So you can imagine then if you have a bunch of liquor stores around, people are starting to drink more, and it just becomes over time more okay. And so if you're the person in charge and all you could think about is like people's individual attitudes, you're not going to be a good leader. And you're really failing your people. You're really going to come up way short. But if you can start thinking about policy, you can be like, what is the zoning policy that's leading to this, right? Like why? Okay, individual differences between people, cool. But when I have differences between groups that are just follow the same demographic lines as everything else, I have to be like, all right, what's structurally happening here that's driving this? And so for people who are in charge of, any group of people, any kind of organization, you just are in such an amazing position to make a huge impact. If you can take a step back, think systems, think structures, think what's being made easy to do and what's being made difficult to do. And any way you can intervene, really, really big impact. But at the same time, individually, let's, be responsible.
And that's where we as PSC coordinators will come in, because we do focus on the policy, the system, and the environmental. While you were talking, one of the Greens family video was like, let's say a neighborhood like North Lawndale. That's the neighborhood that I'm particularly in charge of. They have no grocery store. And I remember attending a meeting and they're just like, we need a grocery store, we need a grocery store. So how do you expect a community to eat healthy if there is no grocery store there that sells fresh produce? And you also have to think of the transportation in the neighborhood. If I'm in a neighborhood and I have to take 5 buses to get to a grocery store, but there's a corner store that sells chips, I think I'm going to go to the corner store that sells chips versus, take the 5 buses to get to that grocery store. So I'm glad you did touch on that. Like it all deals with the policies, the systems that are in place to, promote the healthy behavior.
What's a PSC?
Policy, system, and environmental.
PSE.
PSE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's what we do focus on.
What do you tell people? So it's, when things are inconvenient, there's more transportation and there's no grocery store.
You can put as many billboards about eat healthy as much as you can. You can give as much educational speeches, right, about eating healthy. But if there's no policy, if there's no system in place, how can you make that change?
It's like putting a bunch of Lamborghini ads. I can't buy a Lamborghini, So I saw a wild presentation. There was a collaboration it's called Brazil, Illinois, and it's researchers from Brazil and researchers from Illinois collaborating. So I got to go to this conference and I got to present. But there was a researcher who they used people's cell phones to tell their travel patterns. And what they found was that in Brazil, the lower your income was, the less convenient it was to work. So this is like famous to get to a grocery store, but also just to get to work. So on average, like the poorest quintile, I'm going to butcher this, but this is broadly was the message of it, is like 5 miles from home at 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So they're having to travel in so early so there's something in health behavior called friction, which is the more friction you add to a behavior, the harder it is to do. So in terms of people are less likely to do it if it's more difficult. So when you go to McDonald's, you just pull up to the window and you say, could I please have a number 1, right? And so what they're trying to do is make it as easy as possible to order. You could say, I would like a chicken sandwich with a tomato and, but you don't say that because that's a little bit harder, right? So even like little friction like that, that we have studies in my field where They will put somebody's favorite sedentary activity, let's say video games, and okay, you have undergrads come in. There's like 100 of them. 25 of them, they walk in a room and there's their favorite video game and physical activity together.
Yeah.
25 of them, the video games in the room and physical activity is 5 minutes away. 25 of them, physical activities in the room, the video games are 5 minutes away. 25 of them, both of them are 5 minutes away. So a 5-minute walk, the difference in physical activity that they do is like complete. So people will not go anywhere. They will always choose video game when physical activity and video game are next to each other. They will always choose physical activity, not always, but mostly, almost always, if video games are 5 minutes away. Right. So now we're talking about what happens to people's work and exercise and food habits. We're not talking about 5 minutes in undergrads who not going to do anyways. We're talking about like busy adults and it's hours away.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're really making it really a lot of friction for that behavior. So people will, if you're really into individual responsibility, you'll listen to that argument and they'll be like, yeah, but you make a decision. I get up and I do this extra thing and I make it happen. But on a whole, 1 million people, 1,000 people, 100 people, you're going to have every range of characteristics. So you're going to have people who are really hardworking and really diligent and responsible and persistent and have a lot of energy. You have people with really low energy who are really lazy. Guaranteed with big enough people, you're going to have every characteristic. But we know that at that level, if you make something hard to do, most people are not going to do it. If you make it easier, they are going to do it. This is why there's, Amazon takes off.
2-day shipping right to your door.
Just get easier and easier and on demand.
So for an organization, what strategy or how can an organization design a strategy for their employee to meet them at like the level of change they're at or to help them change that health behavior?
Yes. What do you mean by level of change? There's a couple of different ways I can think of it.
So you were saying that people may have a range of different responsibilities. So let's say I'm trying to get my employees to be more physically active.
Yes.
But Cassandra over here is a mother of 3, where you over here a single person. So I can't necessarily implement the same strategy for all.
Yes. Yeah.
So how can I meet my employees at where they're at individually while still, trying to help them change that health behavior?
Yeah. So I think one is there some professionals, and I would find some
professionals.
Like I might find an RD. I might find there are people who do like worksite wellness if you were a business. But people who they spend their whole careers thinking this stuff through. I like some caveats that I would add from my lens are if I was running a business, I would be thinking about how can I get these health behaviors to help me with what I want. Okay. Right. So if what I want is like employee retention and group cohesion, maybe things that give people time together to bond together. Because part of being part of organization, how committed you are is about the goals of the organization. And like, I believe in this organization, what they're doing. But another part of it is just how bonded are they to each other. Okay. So something like a softball team, which has existed forever, right? It's just this way. Are they getting activity? Yes. Are they getting a benefit? Yeah. But if you're the employer, your people are getting bonded. If what you want is something like work productivity or greater focus or fewer missed days, that kind of thing, then a couple things to consider. One is a lot of companies will have like a gym on site, or so this is called a pull strategy. So pull strategies mean you ask people to come to you. So, hey, we have this beautiful facility. This might be really nice for recruiting people. If somebody's an exerciser and you can show them a beautiful facility and let them know that like it's acceptable in the culture to go use it, that the management uses it, that to encourage it. It might be a good recruitment tool. It might be a good retention tool for people who are exercisers. With that kind of approach, you're going to get 10 to 20%. Like predictably, the people who are kind of already at exercise are going to go. Right. Everyone who isn't, the overstretched mom is not going to go. They're going to go home. So the flip side are called push strategies. And push strategies are where you make activity the default method. Okay. So some stuff that comes to mind might be like a beautiful stairwell. Right, you build a beautiful stairwell and there's windows and like the elevator is in some dark little corner that you have to right? A skip stop elevator. That's an elevator that you press floor 13 and it takes you to floor 12 and you have to walk up or walk down, right?
Okay.
A standing desk. Whatever's like, it makes it the default mode. And my favorite thing of this is something called instant recess. And instant recess was a really, really beautiful story. The woman who created it was named Tony Yancey. She was, I think that maybe like, I don't know if she was the dean or the chair of public health at UCLA, but she had been a collegiate athlete, really, really brilliant woman. She had done a bunch of work where she basically was bringing recess for adults. So at your employer, like a little video would come on for 10 minutes and everyone would get up and everyone would dance to the video. So you could do it in your work clothes. You weren't going to break a sweat, but you were moving a little bit. It was really fun. You'd have all kinds of themes. You could still YouTube it like instant recess. And she was getting 80-90% of employees up and moving, getting 10 minutes every day, which is so we talked earlier about like the guideline is 150 minutes a week.
Yeah.
The first minutes are the most powerful. So the curve of like reduced death with your first like 10 minutes a week, 20 minutes a week, 30 minutes a week is super duper steep. And then 150 to 300, which is where they come in with the guideline, that's kind of where you're not going to get much more benefit from going beyond that. But so she was getting most people off the couch, moving a bit in a way that was really fun that employers could do. And I think it was taken off. She wrote a book. She passed lung cancer, never smoked, very healthy, but lived in LA and just pollution, like at her prime. And it fell. But that's like, for me, the most precious work site intervention I ever saw. And they had really cool data about employees like not being sick, about productivity, about time on task. And they did stuff with Kaiser Permanente and Keen footwear. And it was really nice.
I love the use of instant recess because it just brings back the joy of when you were a kid.
Exactly.
Instead of making it like a task or just another thing to do. Because we do have something similar, like a strategy similar of like active breaks and meal breaks and stuff like that, just because sometimes we're there for an hour or so or more. And then at a certain point, you kind of check out what you want to check out. And having that moment to refresh your body, refresh your brain, just to hit that restart button. And again, just like, okay, we're back here. We're back in the moment. We're present. All of that is important just for yourself, mental health and all of that. But just also as an employer to have good productivity and creativity moving around and just, being more present.
I love that. And it's using physical activity for what you want, right? It's using your physical activity for the goals of the employer. So we do the same thing in schools. So physical activity breaks are very popular in schools. There's quite a bit of data around it. So the data suggests that basically kids' misbehavior doubles every 2 hours and that like a recess, a little 10, 20-minute break resets the misbehavior. If you give kids a 10 to 20-minute break, they're about 10% more on task afterwards. And for the subset of kids who are the least on task to begin with, that's 25 to 30% improvement in on-task behavior. So the influence of physical activity on your cognition in a moment, like after you do it, is very, very real and very well established.
Yeah. And you were talking about steroid promotion, and that's also some strategy that we also work with as well. Where we can come on site. So if you're an employer, you don't want to think about the nitty-gritty that goes to it. And just as Dr. Bustamante said, bring in the expert, which is say we do work with steroid promotion and also we do active breaks on site as well. So that's other things that we can do to help bring.
What do y'all have people do during the breaks and do they like it?
So Tracy usually is the one that leads the active break. She does yoga. I remember during one of the conferences, after an 8-hour conference, she, got us there, did a little, little snooze, and that was feeling.
Yeah. So, we just tell them, like, again, it's whatever's within your means as well, right? And then whatever they're physically able to do. But it's primarily revolves around, like, stretching and stuff. Because, again, you're sitting down for such a long time, you start stiffening up. And it's just thinking about getting up and doing something is also stressful. And like, what? So it's like, it doesn't have to be too much. It can be simple, but just like get up and move around.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, encouraging like different behaviors with the stairwell promotion we have. They might be side by side, the stairwell and the elevator, but we have signs like free stairmaster, use it, you know? Something a little funny. Or what's the other one we use? Oh, and then we also do like messaging.
Yeah.
I know we were talking about the bulletin boards, you can put as many as you want and it's not gonna work. But also it's like a marketing strategy. The more you see it, the more you have it in your mind. And then you're like, oh, well, I remember seeing that somewhere and it told me to do something. Eventually, you probably connect the dots and take that advice.
Yeah.
So we're using any kind of power we have from here and there to put them all together to have people just make those small little changes.
Yes.
So, you know, we're here to try to also like influence people without not trying to force.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think once we get people going, like once you're a couple weeks into eating real food, and like sleeping at night, exercising, you just feel a whole lot different. You feel a whole lot different, a whole lot better, a whole lot less stressed. And then once you like, if you've been going for like 6 months or so, and it's a habit, you're kind of just a freight train. Unless something big changes, that's a pretty stable phase once people have the habits down.
Before we end the conversation, do you think it takes 21 days to build a habit? Or is it 6 months as you're saying?
I've heard people say that.
Yeah.
So we have something called trans-theoretical model, which is that people go through these, I think it's 5 stages, 6 stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance. Yeah. And so maintenance starts, like the earliest maintenance starts is 6 months. And so if you basically like, if you haven't even thought about changing your health yet, then this is about smokers. So people who successfully quit smokers, what phases did they go through? But if you haven't even thought about changing yet, that's pretty stable. People don't usually think about changing. Once you start thinking about it, contemplation, you're still pretty unstable. Like you're likely to just forget about it and go back to pre-contemplation. Preparation is you're like looking into what resources there are. Again, unstable. And action is super unstable. So once you start to change, so look, you have this habit and routine, and it's this set of like a cue. You see something, you have a craving, you act upon it, you get the reinforcement. And that habit loop is going for you, whether you decided to make habits or not. You have habits. I drive here a certain way. I drink my coffee a certain way. I don't think about it. My keys and my wallet and everything, I don't know how they get where they get. It's obviously me, but like I don't have to think about it. When I drive my car sometimes, and I'll be driving and I'll be like, oh, I'm driving. And I just kind of, I don't know what I was thinking about, something more important, but I was just on cruise control. So once you have that set up for your life, whatever your routine is, and you try to change it, that's very unstable until it's long enough that now every cue gives a different urge, a different response, and a different reinforcement. Now you're in a different habit loop.
Okay.
I would probably be closer to like 6 months, versus 21 days. But if thinking 21 days is going to get you through like day 19,
right. Let's go with like
Quite an increment of 21 days.
Right.
Yeah.
So you hit the 6 months.
I feel like that's kind of a difficult stage to be in, just the adjustment period to get to that routine. Again, there's not like one miracle advice that you could get, or just like program like, okay, do this and you'll be good forever. It's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be restarts, and you're going to be good for like a year, and then something happens, or something just triggers you that you're like, you know what, not today, and it happens, not today again, or I can't tomorrow, and then it becomes a 2-week thing, and then you have to restart that trend again because it's kind of starting all over. But the important thing is to keep going. I mean, if you lose the goal or lose like the will to do it, that's a bad part. But if you start doing those adjustments little by little, even if you keep restarting, anything that keeps you going is positive. So that's the important thing. Again, there can be a lot of advice, exactly what you're supposed to be doing, but just do something.
Can I ask you all a serious question?
Yeah, sure.
So I've been in this field for, I guess, thinking about it probably since undergrad, so probably like more than 20 years. I sometimes get the feeling that like poor health, obesity epidemic it's like this train, you know, and it just has a lot of momentum. And I just feel like those of us who are trying to promote health, sometimes it feels like we're just throwing rocks at a train, you know, in terms of screens are so interesting. Every Netflix show that I watch is so good. You go to a fast food place and the food is like delicious and just so many calories and so affordable and so convenient. And it just feels like there's all this force towards getting people to be unhealthy. And we're kind of going like, wait, stop, you know, you're dying, you know?
Yeah.
But it feels like what we do is kind of a lot smaller in comparison. But I don't know, do you all have these thoughts or
Oh yeah,
optimistic?
feel that we're kind of running against the current for sure. Especially how social media, even the healthy version of TikTok, social media, all of that, it's still not conveying the right message sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to even know what's true, what's not true, especially for the common person, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you're trying to do that positive change, but you get on the wrong person's page, TikTok page that is not promoting specifically health.
Yeah.
It was just some kind of
Hold on.
diet trend or whatever's going on. Yeah. So I do feel like we're going against the grain sometimes.
I do too. I just started the job like 8 months ago, and I've been attending like a lot of like community meetings. And sometimes when you do listen to the trauma that's happening and you realize that just a little bit of your job, maybe you coordinating a class makes a little difference. I think it makes you feel a little bit better. And you realize that, like you were saying, it's not just happening in a big group. You may change one person's life in a room, but that's still a life change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do take solace in the thought that it's just good to do good things for people. You know, I can't change the world, but I can cook my neighbor a meal.
Right.
You know, I can mow their lawn. I can, just try to offer something good.
Yeah, working in the community is hard, but it's rewarding. I used to do like physical activity, like snippets with the senior population, and just having them have that moment to socialize and come around and move around and play some music. It just brightened their day. They have something to look forward to, you know, or going to the WIC centers and doing a cooking demo. And being like, oh, I didn't know that's what I use that product for. I'm like, or I never tried this. I didn't like it just because of how it looks. I'm like, just give it a try. You don't like it, we'll find something else. If not, and then they end up liking it or not, whatever it is. But it's seeing that alternative, and they're trying, we're all putting a little grain of sand together to kind of, you know, develop a resource that they can use without us being there, like telling them this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think in public health, loneliness is the #1 killer. So even those classes, bringing, you know, them together, interacting with someone else or, you know, one of their colleagues can help, you know, with their health behavior or
What's the #1 killer?
like loneliness.
Loneliness.
Yeah. Loneliness. Yeah.
Well, and I think the pandemic really added to that as well. So
Yeah. Because Sandra, your thing about people looking forward to the programming, that's probably my favorite part about our program. So we've been around maybe like a dozen parks over the last few years and working with families. And so families do sleep challenges together, physical activity challenges, and cooking challenges. And the kids look forward to it so much, just because you have all these busy, it's mostly moms, but also some dads, but it's like all these busy parents, they're running around all the time. And then you just get this, for the time that the period's going on for those 6 weeks, there's this one night a week that everything stops and the kid just gets the parents' attention. And they're just, you know, they're playing together, they're doing challenges together, doing activities together, and the kids just kind of light up. And having their parent there is their favorite part. And when you do that and you see the effect, it's really rewarding. And so a couple like pieces of maybe encouragement for us. One is, I think the obesity rate is around 30-something% now, but it was only 10% when I was a kid. It's like 1990. So people were not so much smarter or more capable or more organized or more knowledgeable in like 1990, but somehow they weren't dealing with what we're dealing with, right? And so by that sense, it seems like we should be able to it would have to be environmental changes, but we could make some changes that would bring us back to what things were like within my lifetime. I mean, I'm not back. It would have to be forwards. It would have to be different, but where we could make it easier for people to be healthy.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that I'll offer is like the things that we are, like the tools that we're working with are really powerful.
Yes.
Really powerful for people's physical health, really powerful for their mental health, and really flexible and can be used towards a lot of purposes. And I feel like no matter who you are, there is a role of movement, food, and sleep in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, how are you going to use it to optimize where you're at in your phase right now?
Yeah.
You know, like what your concerns are. But nobody escapes from it. We're all having some sleep quality, some food quality, some physical activity quality. I appreciate you all, and I appreciate everyone who chooses this field. You know, you could probably make a lot more money selling people alcohol, or tobacco, or gambling, or whatever else is like addictive. But you'd be damaging people.
Yeah.
And you all are doing the opposite of that. So I think what you're doing is a beautiful use of your time on Earth.
And we want to thank you for your expertise, for being in the field, for representing the Latino community as well, because I feel like we need good role models. I mean, they see a lot of things, but, you know, we're out there trying to help bring the world a better place as well. So thank you for being in that presentation. And thank you for being here. I know this is a new thing we're coming up with, so getting people to get on board it's a little iffy and difficult, but we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And with that, is there anything you would like to promote, shout out? We'll be putting links in our bio as well. Anything you want to tell our audience, just to wrap things up?
Yeah, so a few things. One is UIC Kinesiology and Nutrition.
Right.
So we have a department. There's probably about 1,000 students, a lot of careers around health and health promotion. If anyone's interested, UIC is a fantastic place to study. I was an alum from here. I have my oldest daughter goes here. You're in the city. You have all the all the entertainment and the sports and the culture of the city, and you get to work with some of the best scientists in the world. My lab is the UIC Healthy Kids Lab. We continuously have studies going on, studies with families, studies with parks, studies with schools, all about, mostly about the intersections of health, behavior, and mental health with kids and families. So a special focus on kids with ADHD and just families who are facing any kind of barrier. So our main program right now is built Be Unstoppable in Life Together, which is funded through CPHP. It's a SNAP-Ed program. So helping families take on health routines at home through all fun like games and challenges. And so, please reach out. We're always looking to connect, whether it's with community partners or with individual families.
And Steve, thank you so much. Thanks for listening to Healthier Habits with your hosts, Cassandra Zumba
And Diakwachi.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Keep an eye out for more episodes and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell.
Here at CPHP, we have the EATMOVESAVE Meal Kit. This is an e-commerce project dedicated to improving and resolving access to healthy and affordable foods through a meal kit, which is packaged and delivered directly to a family's home throughout Chicago through Typebox. Visit our EATMOVESAVE website for more information on meal kit ordering and delivery.
You can help support the podcast by liking, sharing, and subscribing, following us on our social media accounts on Instagram as EATMOVESAVE Chicago, Facebook EATMOVESAVE Chicago, and YouTube as UIC OCEAN-HP. Look for the podcast tab for more episodes.
If you'd like more information on partnering with our organization, head over to our website, cphp.uic.edu, and send us a message.
Thank you for joining this chat. Check out our links and resources in the description. See you next time.
Bye.
This institution is an equal opportunity provider. This material is funded by the USDA Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. Chicago Partnership for Health Promotion is a unit of the Office of Community Engagement and Neighborhood Health Partnerships, representing a network of community-based interventions designed to improve nutrition and reduce disparities in outcomes associated with nutritional diseases, including obesity. CPHP provides high-quality, age, gender, and culturally tailored nutrition education in various venues across the city.
Eat, Move, Save.